Hello and welcome. I am your host of What Are You Reading? What Are You Writing? Author Karen E. Osborne. I have five novels out. The latest is Justice for Emerson. I am so glad that you're here. This is a space for readers and writers to come together and talk about books. So, you guys who watch regularly, how much I love interviewing friends. And that's the case today. I am interviewing a friend and I got to read his book. I can't always read everybody's books, a show a week, sometimes two shows a week. But I got to read this one. I am so happy to recommend it to you and to introduce you to Anthony Carter. Hey, Anthony.
Hi, Karen E. Osborne. How are you? It's good to see you and thank you for having me today.
Oh, I am delighted to talk with you. And we've been having fun already, people. Before I even hit record, he and I have been having a lovely conversation. So we're just going to keep it going. So firstly, I do want to read a little bit about him to you guys first. So I have just a short thing I want to read to you. So Anthony P. Carter is the former chief diversity officer at Johnson and Johnson. He's a veteran corporate leader at Avon and a lifelong Catholic shaped by a Jesuit education. As a Black man of faith who rose from the South Bronx, like my Bob, to the C-suite, he brings a lived understanding of identity, adversity, and service. His book, This I Know, speaks about race, faith, purpose, and what it means to lead with love. Now, you guys want to read this book already, right? It sounds so good. But before we dive in, one of the things that I noticed in the foreword that it was written by the Denzel Washington. There has to be a story there. Please share.
Well, first of all, thank you. What a kind introduction. There is a story there. I'm not going to give it all away because in chapter 4, The Price of Friendship, it tells you all about it. But let me give you some highlights of that. We met at Fordham University in 1972. Students trying
Mhm.
to pursue a career or at least learning in pre-med. And we found out real quickly that that wasn't where we were supposed to be. We looked inside ourselves and said, I don't think we want to do that. So we went into communications. I went journalism, he went theater. And that bond, because we were sharing the same subject matter again in the classroom and all that, built into a relationship that we really got to know each other. And 50 plus, I guess almost about 56 years later, we're still friends. He was the best man in my wedding. I was a groomsman in his wedding. Our daughter is his goddaughter. His son, oldest son, is my godson. The bottom line is what we learn from each other, that support base that's necessary when you're making huge decisions matters. But most importantly, Karen, what matters is friendship. And we've built upon that. And as you see, and most readers, I hope, will capture this, along that journey, there's never been any separation in our friendship. No noise, no disruptions. There's a purity there. And I think all of that is because of our deep faith.
That deep shared faith.
Yep.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Absolutely. So I so I read this, I know, and it's so filled with powerful life lessons and great little short story, vignettes about life. Why did you decide to write this book? What was the inspiration that it was time to put what you've learned down in writing?
Karen, I thought about that a lot. And there's not a big story attached to that. Coming out of college and working in the field of corporate communications throughout my career, there was an appetite for writing. But I must add, honestly, never to write a book. I thought that would be one of the most difficult things to do. I've written speeches, releases for folks I've worked with, but never a personal perspective on it. If I get this right, this is my job supposed to do. When I retired in 2015, there was this sense of not urgency, but typically people who retire and had a pretty nice career. I think my career was worthwhile, and I learned a lot and I gave a lot. And we like to sum all of those experiences up in, I want to write a book. And most of those books are about, okay, what did I learn that I can share? You know, how to climb the corporate ladder, how to be successful in your role, you know, how to present yourself, all wonderful things that I have friends doing now, right? They're sharing those experiences. But now 11 years out of the company and out of corporate America, as I look back and talk to some of my mentees, they're not experiencing what I experienced in terms of their formation, their development, all of these things. It's quite different now. So
Yeah.
I thought deeply, maybe it's time to write something that could be more penetrating than how you should behave and work. And maybe what I write should be something about how we live, not only at work, but outside of that. How do we direct our lives so that it's more meaningful? And so, being a man of faith, along with my big buddy, good buddy, Denzel, I felt there was a purpose. And so as I tried to write this, it was tough because now I'm revealing stuff that's in here. And sometimes that's hard. And sometimes people go, whoa, where are you going with that? But the guidance came from my mentors, right? And then all of a sudden, Loyola Press knocked on the door and said, we're interested in that manuscript that you sent to one of our editors here, right? And I said, okay, which I didn't think it would happen that way. And it took a little bit of time. And in that conversation with the editor, looking at something that was rough, a rough manuscript, he saw what you and I are talking about now, that faith, that direction, that centering of where we want to be. And at where we want to be in that center is God. And of course, Loyola Press being a Catholic Jesuit publication, or just purely a Catholic publication or publishing house, allowed me to think deeper about that in terms of how I share that. And so I took some time to think, took some time to write, and started to believe I can do this. And as a side point, I may add, when I retired, I had only three things in mind: spend more time with my wife and family, do a lot of traveling. And I think I've been successful in those two things, right?
Right.
With my wife, because you know her to see if she knows that to be true, and then write a book. But writing the book was the hardest, as I said. So, you know, over time, those first couple of years being retired, I started to see things. COVID-19, you know, things going on with George Floyd, society as a whole being shrinked to something that's incomprehensible. And I said, in the center of that, there's got to be God. There's got to be. And I know, Karen, you're a woman of faith.
Yeah.
You understand that. And in that, I found that clinging sensation to tell the honest story about who I am and how I want that to be exposed.
Wow. You know, I bought your book. I'm going to buy your book and give it to my pastor. She loves to read. She reads constantly. And when I was reading your manuscript, because you sent it to me as as a manuscript, when I was reading it, I thought, oh, Pastor Ruth is going to love reading this. And she has a little book club, a little, faith-based book club. So you're going to have some readers
That's
already.
always good. That's always good. Yes.
Some passionate Christian ladies who will read your book. So okay, so now you're sharing deep feeling. You're sharing about purpose and about where faith plays an important role in one's life and one's development, work, home, everywhere. What do you want your readers as a result? So now someone's finished the book, they read it, they enjoyed it. But what do you hope will stay with them that has an impact on their lives? What do you want your readers to think, do, feel as a result of reading this book?
Great question. I believe, and you've nailed it, it's a heartfelt, passionate display of an individual, me, wanting to share the goodness of life. While Karen, your goodness of life is different from my goodness of life, How do we see that as our centering? You'll hear me always talk about that and share that so it inspires folks to say, I have a centering. I have an optimism. We have a lot of dark clouds over us right now, but the formation of those clouds was put in the center of our lives for a rationale, for a reason. And so if we continue to stare up in the sky and look at dark clouds, we'll never see beyond that and see that there is light. Not to be biblical, but that's a fact. I want folks to walk away with the fact that, yes, I see trustworthiness, I see honesty, I see faith. But wouldn't it be wonderful if someone says, I see that in me that either I didn't penetrate or have it penetrate more deeply into me, or I haven't shared it with others who can benefit more from it than me. So it's a bunch of
Mm,
sharing,
mm.
as I said, heartfelt, intentionally passionate, and that's my DNA, and I'm not ashamed of that. Right? Love to pray. I love to be around people. I love to have wholesome conversations, and I love to challenge conversations as well. But in the spirit of when we walk away, I know that I'm always learning, and so I chose this sort of frame of mind because it's deeply embedded inside of me, and I know that, like the book, this I know that because I have lived it. I have experienced it with all the things in the book, and you've read it that I have gone through. I'm not supposed to be where I am today. I, in many ways, am supposed to be sort of disgruntled about things because things happened to me that were not fair. But I'm still here, Karen, and I'm still standing.
Yes, yes. Mm. So, are you now? Now you've got the bug, the writing bug. Are you thinking about writing something else?
Well, I can pray and cross my fingers to be a prolific writer like the woman I am looking at right now. I can't wait to read Justice for Emerson. I've been reading. It's interesting saying this, but I've been reading a lot, but I haven't been completing a lot of the reading because as I read something, I go, oh, idea. Bam, I'm in another thing. What I hope is what I just shared with you about my intentions. There's been some quiet discussion. I don't know if it's me or they see Denzel on the front cover in my forward, but there is a connection to what was shared and sort of interest in what else can happen, right? For me, writing is a puzzle. I don't know if I have all the pieces yet for further engagement or exploration in this, but I'm so pleased with what I've accomplished, and we'll see what happens after that.
It's very hard when you've just birthed a baby.
Yes.
You know,
You
your
know,
your book baby only is just come out, and it's very hard to start thinking about. I have a cousin who started writing, and he wrote a memoir first, and then he's a retired police officer, New York detective, and I said, in your memoir, there's like 5 books in here. You should write one of them. And that's how I felt about your book. Well, there's a lot of books in here. There's a lot of things that you could bring out and make into another book or build on it or share more. So anyway, I'm very interested. I can't wait to hear what happens next, but I know that it's very soon because you just birthed this baby. So we will.
Karen, if I may add, what you said is really powerful. I would not have been able, I think, to accomplish this by myself. My wife was, you're supposed to be in a room writing. And I didn't realize it was supposed to be from 6 a.m. when I got up to like 2 a.m. the next morning. But without that sort of commitment on her part to push me, I think I got through it. Also, having an editor who was pouring into me so much, so I had to take timeouts a lot, right? I've never written for an editor. I've written for people, but not for an editor. And as I was going through that process, it seemed to me that my wife and others who I was sharing the story I was writing, that they were saying, you have something to tell. You got to say it now. And so that spiritual aspect of it kind of overwhelmed me in a good way, but in many ways, it propelled me to say, okay, why not? We will see. So you saw the endorsements, you saw the table of contents, you saw some of the things I put in there that deeply personal. That came from here. And I hope, back to your original question before, was I hope folks feel that, but not so much look at that light that's shining on Anthony. There's a light shining on me. I just had so many dull veils or whatever in front of me that I haven't peeled away. So it's deeply personal, but deeply spiritual as well.
Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. So did somebody influence your writing style? But you told me about the people who influenced it, your wife's, Wendy's support and everyone's around you. But was there ever somebody that you read that you thought, like you were just saying to me, you read a book and you don't finish it because it gives you ideas. Was there somebody in particular that you read that had a big influence on your writing style?
Oh, yes. And before I answer that, I was the recipient of people, editing my writing. A copywriter, writing press releases and having I have to go up to channels to be approved. So it always felt pure, but there were other people. With the help of an editor, I helped to express what was already inside of me. I never read books to see if, in fact, I can do this. I read books for inspiration or just wanted to know something. So to answer your question, the biggest impact out of a single book that I read was Paul Coelho's The Alchemist. Because
Wow,
as I
that's a
wrote
good
my
one.
book, obviously I pulled off my shelf, go, this guy took a journey on
Mm.
faith, optimism, left the family back home, didn't do what the family said he was supposed to do, but he wanted to share something and see something. And no matter how we judge, he got to that end point. Was it a pyramid? Was it whatever? As he got to that end point, he accomplished his goal. And that stuck with me. And I said, I'm not as prolific as Paulo Coelho. However, if I tell my story honestly, that would be all that matters. Now, since then, I've read a lot of books, and I haven't felt that same way. I felt the power of the story, but that story kind of still sits here.
Very-
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Very good. And so you said, uh, so a book that didn't help shape you, but have you read anything recently that you could just recommend to our
Oh yeah,
audience?
yeah. Actually, I pull some out because I like to keep account of what books I've read and haven't read. A lot of books here with like index cards in them. You left off at chapter such and such, such and such. But there is a good friend of mine, and his name is Douglas Young, and he wrote a book called Unbound Gifts. I don't know if you heard about that book and or your viewers of your podcast, but it's an interesting historical fiction book. Now, my friend Douglas was a scientist. We worked together at Bristol Myers Squibb, and he's a brilliant man. And he dug deeply into this whole experience around slavery. And the book was about that. But the character, don't want to give it away, yes, is a slave, but was one of the most brilliant people who had expressed so much brilliance that his master wanted him to showcase that. However, as he was showcasing that, the master was still treating him as a slave. And so the brilliance of the book and the historical perspective about it was amazing. I love that book. And again, this is a good buddy. I read the David Baldacci's A Calamity of the Souls. I don't know if you read that one. John Grissom's Camino Ghost. I read those while I was writing this. And this is one I'm having a little difficulty getting through, but I'm trying to get through it. It's James, Percival Everett, and he's a great
Yes.
writer. I got to get through the language a little bit, but
Yeah.
well, I've been preoccupied with those. And by the way,
All the code switching and
yeah,
yeah.
well, yeah, and that's a little hard. And I have two books I have to read. My editor has written a book, and so has her senior officer. I will read those books as well. So I'm trying to get back into it. But you would know better than most. Writing is that's an intense process.
It is, and it's very consuming. And when you write fiction, these characters talk to you. So you're really confused. I was just at CVS right before we started recording, and I'm standing in CVS, and these characters are just talking to me, talking to me, talking to me, and I have to take out a little notebook and make some notes. You're like you're schizophrenic, but anyway, it's all fun. It's all good. It's all good. It's all good. So I want to thank you so much for joining us today. This has been such a fun conversation and really powerful conversation. And I hope that our viewers and our listeners, we're on Spotify, we're on Apple. audio only, and then we're on YouTube and Facebook and my website. Where can they find you? And I know you're a brand new author, so things are in the works, right?
Absolutely are. Things are in the work with the marketing team at Loyola Press, looking at ways I can do a website and other sort of channels for furthering the communications around the book. I am on Facebook as Anthony Carter. I am on LinkedIn as Anthony Carter. And so I will be developing some more. And I have a pretty much a short window. So I'm operating fast because I want people to know that. So I expect that to expand. But I want to say to you, Karen, thank you. Uh, the gratitude is hard to see from the screen, but I hope you know that not just relating to me, but the presence and the showcasing you've done for some great writers. And I've seen a few of your podcasts, the sense of feeling welcome, the sense of you allowing us to express what's in here that's in our book, and then you sharing it to your listeners. This is the first sort of big thing I've done with this book, and I'm honored to have it being done by you.
Aw, thank you. That's so sweet. That's very nice of you to say. I love meeting all these, I love putting people on who I know, but I also love meeting all the strangers that I've met and finding out about books that I probably wouldn't have picked up. But then when they talk to me, I think, oh, I've got to read that. So it has been wonderful. I hope
Thank
you guys have enjoyed this conversation as much as we have enjoyed the conversation. Please, when you find Anthony Carter on Facebook, when you find him on LinkedIn, and this will be posted on LinkedIn as well. I meant to say that this will be posted, yeah, on LinkedIn as well. Please let him know that you met him on what are you reading? What are you writing? See you all next week. Bye bye.
you, Karen.